Florida has been America's premier sunshine playground for years, but its glistening reputation is starting to tarnish. And the reality on the ground is a whole lot more brutal than the state would have you believe. Officials pride themselves on having welcomed over 140 million visitors last year. But if you speak with the real people who run the businesses visitors rely on, the picture is completely different. Sales have dropped by nearly one-third, traffic has pretty much disappeared, and that summer bump everyone was hoping for never materialized. Owners are calling 2025 the worst year since 2020, right after the pandemic when everything shut down, and that's not good news. So what went wrong? Some point fingers at Hurricane Helen and a weakening economy, but those explanations don't even come close. Beneath the front-page headlines, more profound forces are at play. Political decisions that have dissuaded foreign visitors, disappointed Canadians who once flocked to Florida every winter, and tariffs that have pushed food prices higher for locals and visitors alike. From the busy boardwalks of Johns past to the center of Tampa Bay, places that once buzzed with activity now lie eerily quiet. The truth can't be avoided. Florida is facing a tourism crisis in 2025. And while the authorities pretend not to notice, signs of doom were there all along. Small businessmen, hospitality professionals, and families that rely on the seasonal presence of tourists to make ends meet are the hardest hit. If you're new here, hit that like button and subscribe, because in this video, we're diving deep into why Florida tourism is faltering, and why this story is about far more than hurricanes or economic fluctuations. Florida businesses survived for decades on a predictable tourist timetable. Spring break sets the first big wave, summer maintains it, and winter swamps back with the snowbirds. But last year, 2025, that winning formula completely collapsed. Spring break didn't produce any tourists at all, and the summer season, so crucial for recovery from expensive hurricane repairs, never materialized. Take John's Pass Boardwalk, for example. Usually it's full of families enjoying ice cream, tourists browsing souvenir shops, and fishermen displaying their haul. This year, the owners are sounding the alarm. A few refer to 2025 as the worst season ever since the pandemic shut down tourism. Restaurants are almost empty during what should be peak dinner hours. Souvenir shops are full of unsold merchandise. Even the major attractions, once on a roll with dependable turnout, are getting hit hard. Owners on average say they're off by around 30% compared to last year, a dip that means more than just trouble, it's a heartbreak. It can be between keeping your doors open versus shutting them forever. And it's not just the owners who suffer. The servers, the retail staff, and the housekeepers all rely on tourism dollars to stay in business. When tourists don't show up, hours are cut and paychecks shrink. Florida's tourism business was banking on a strong summer in 2025, but that boom never materialized. Entire communities now face an uncertain, and maybe disastrous, off-season. But listen to the state's tourism leaders and politicians, and you'd think all is well. They congratulate themselves on healthy hotel bookings and proclaim visitor traffic is on par with the best years in recorded history. In theory, Florida still looks to be one of America's top destinations for vacation. But ask the locals who work and live the business day in and day out, and a very different picture emerges. Local business people, waiters, and hotel staff depict quieter boardwalks, restaurants half full, and a real slowing of the endless parade of foreign guests that had brought the merchants money. Whereas formal announcements herald strong tourist numbers, there is a feeling that the numbers are being massaged to underwrite a sunny narrative that isn't even true to the reality of keeping a business afloat. And it's not everybody's imagination. There are concrete consequences. One restaurant that served 200 dishes per night now can struggle to do 100, with cuts to payroll, food waste, and empty tables. But the party line remains firm that tourism is treading water, overwhelming the complaints of small business owners. This disconnect between reported success and felt reality is fueling anger and eroding trust in the very institutions that are designed to support Florida's tourism economy. When asked why business has been slow, the majority of owners point to two old culprits: the storms that pound the coast and the general economic slump that constricts the purse strings of family spending. And at first blush, it sounds plausible. Hurricane Helen alone kept stores closed for weeks, even months, as they rebuilt and waited for tourists to return. And rising interest rates, inflation, and a shaky national economy are making families pause before reserving vacation. But even while these descriptions are convenient, They do not really describe just how precipitous Florida's tourist collapse has been in 2025. A storm might keep tourists away for a season, but Florida has always come back quickly in the past. The same is true for economic decline. Families might cut corners, but Florida's sun-soaked beaches and top-ranked amusement parks have generally remained the first choice for anyone who could afford even a short break. This time, though, something doesn't seem quite right. The majority of business owners who attribute the losses to the hurricanes and the economy never mention the politics, international tensions, or state reputation. It is more convenient and safer than taking into consideration that the foreign visitors may be deliberately keeping away from the state. By only focusing on storms and economic pressures, Florida might be overlooking three-dimensional forces that might have far more long-term and deeper effects than a particular hurricane season or transitory cost spike. For decades, Florida has not only depended on American visitors, but on a continuous stream of foreign travelers, Canadian families, European retirees escaping the cold of winter, and tourists from across the globe in search of the Sunshine State experience. But 2025 sees most of them staying at home, and politics are the cause. Florida's governor has become a polarizing figure, consistently trending in the headlines for hardline policies and combative rhetoric. Complementing the politics of the country as a whole, the state also appears increasingly distasteful to tourists. Canadians, who consider themselves snowbirds generation after generation, are frustrated, with some openly boycotting Florida after years of loyalty. Europeans, too, are looking away, drawn to places that appear more politically moderate and family-friendly. The issue isn't perception, it's reputation. It takes years to rebuild once a brand has been tarnished. Now Florida is making its mark globally with controversy, not beaches or theme parks or warm welcomes. And the consequences are real. Overseas visitors spend more and stay longer. When they step back, the economic void they leave behind is far greater than the loss of weekend tourists. Unlike hurricanes or temporary economic declines, this political harm is permanent. It's a slow erosion of confidence and goodwill, already noticed by where international travelers choose to go. The toll on Florida: fewer tourists, emptier resorts, and citizens questioning whether the golden era of tourism has passed. For most of Florida's small towns, winter has always been an economic safety net. During summer's downturn and children returned to school, Canadian snowbirds flocked in, filling condos, dining out at restaurants, and staying for months as loyal repeat business. Their ranks often kept local economies afloat during otherwise sluggish fall months and well into spring. But in 2025, the safety net disappears. Canadians who once traveled south in droves now question whether Florida still much feels like a second home. These snowbirds didn't just stop by, they leased long-term, brought their families with them, and spent consistently, keeping communities going month after month. Now they're rethinking those patterns, intensifying political polarization, tightening immigration enforcement, and a growing sense that Florida isn't as hospitable as it once was are sending them elsewhere. Some are headed to Arizona, others to Mexico, and many are remaining home entirely. This shift isn't just a question of tourist dollars, it's one of stability. A family from New England might spend a week at the beach on vacation, but snowbirds stay for months, supporting everything from grocery stores to local medical practices. When those visitors leave, the impact echoes through entire communities. Restaurants close earlier, rental properties sit vacant, and part-time workers lose hours. Locals cannot fill the gap. Weekend trips and the odd dinner simply do not replace thousands of long-stay foreign visitors' steady spending. Without snowbirds, Florida's typical off-season promises to linger longer and bite worse than ever. And tourism is not the one area of Florida's economy that is taking a hit in 2025. Everyday living has become more expensive, squeezing both locals and visitors. One major offender is tariffs, taxes on imported goods that are directly passed along to consumers. Simple staples like Parmesan cheese, canned drinks, coffee, and even aluminum packaging have all gone up in price. One shopper noted that a block of cheese that once cost $13 now costs nearly $17. For families that were already living paycheck to paycheck, these price increases sting. National surveys show that over half of Americans now find buying groceries to be a major cause of stress. For Floridians, who are also contending with storm repairs, insurance hikes, and declining tourist revenues, it's a perfect storm. When groceries cost more, people cut back on restaurant meals and entertainment, which directly affects the very businesses that rely on tourists. Adding to the pressure, Florida has been in the headlines for controversial projects, such as more detention facilities, that continue to tarnish the state's reputation abroad. Billed as security measures by authorities, these are viewed by many international tourists as monuments to hostility and divisiveness. This kind of coverage doesn't attract families planning a vacation. It sends them to more friendly, hospitable destinations. Rising living costs at home and a sullied image abroad are squeezing Florida from both sides. For the first time in years, the state isn't merely battling off hurricanes or economic boom and bust. It's battling the perception that it's no longer worth a visit. Florida's tourism bust in 2025 is not entirely weather or economics. It's politics, reputation, and rising costs. The state's image is suffering and is frightening away tourists, with local communities bearing the brunt. If this breakdown gave you an eye-opener about Florida's troubles, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share so we can keep the conversation going.